Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Uh, and Phil, if I could, um, let's see, share screen. Oh, yep, it's working. Awesome. Well, thanks for the intro. Phil mentioned we were the number one IUL carrier last year, and so I think my presentation is done. You guys have a great day, and I will see you May 11th. Just kidding, just kidding. Don't log off. Don't log off. Um, you know, it, Phil, spot on. We first met about 5, 6 years ago, and we were competing. It was the regional for a competing carrier that I was competing with. So that's how we met each other. But then we collabed. We're starting to collaborate as of 2 years ago on that topic. So it's great. I will say this, and I'm not just saying this because Phil's on the call and he's giving us a free event. Actually, it's free to use, not free to me, but it he really is an awesome partner. He knows his stuff. You can get as technical as you want, but at the end of the day, he's trustworthy. And I don't care about what company you represent. It all comes down to you as an individual. Does the person across from you trust you? And I can say that about Phil. And so that means that people on this call, he knows that he trusts as well. So I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about. I've been with the company for 10 years, just so to give you a little background. I'm located in Dallas, Texas. And to Phil's point, the Gaylord is you're getting a great rate at the Gaylord. I think I've spent at least 300 a night there. The times I've stayed. Another shameless plug to the May 11th event. I can't wait to see you guys there. But I got a couple of things. We're going to be in and out of a PowerPoint. We're going to be sharing a couple of PDFs, and so I'm going to share my screen now. And yeah, Phil, how do we want to take questions? You said you wanted to have a Q&A.
And they'll pop questions in the
Don't pop
Q&A.
questions.
Yeah, so if they come up, I'll probably just intervene and say, now Marco,
Yeah,
could you tell blah blah blah. So you take it
perfect.
away. If people have questions, they'll pop them up and we'll rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Phil, like I said, mentioned we were the top IUL carrier in the industry last year. But I want you to know the number one is something that we hold true to ourselves and we're very, very proud of. But two things out of that. One, when you're on the top, you have to be more responsible and more aggressive than when you were. You have to be more aggressive in a responsible way than when you were before being number one. And so we haven't always been number one, but I wanted to show you that doing things the right way, being true to yourself, and having a vision pays off. And I think you see this in the slide, guys. So I'll show you our life insurance and annuity sales in millions by the year in target premium every year since 2011. And so you see all the growth that we've had. When I joined the company, it was in 2014. So we were below 200 million of target a year. And fast forward, it's been an honor to be a part of the ride. And a couple of ways we've done it. Product's been good, it's been competitive. If you run comparisons of our IUL, we're not going to be at the top, nor do we want to be at the top, because I think there's been, if you guys know how to play around with these illustrations, you can make them look as good or as bad as you want them to. We prefer not to be at the top, but we do prefer to be at the top quartile, right? So the top percentage, top 3, top 5 in a lot of scenarios, that's where we want to land in when you're running comparisons. If you do that, maybe you guys just have a preferred IUL company and we want to work towards being that. But it's been by having great products, great living benefits, and good service, right? Not perfect service, but good, great service. Because there's no such thing as perfect service. And, with these growing pains, you have to adjust some things. But something that we stay true is that we want to be a middle America company, an IUL accumulation company. And that is the highest growing segment in this country, right? Middle America is a household to us that's earning between 75,000 and 150,000, right? That's where the majority of our sales come from. And the premium comes from obviously the large cases, premium financing, wealth transfer, you name it. But there's only so many of those clients, right? I think only a small percentage of this nation makes over $400,000 of income every year, right? I think it's like low single digits, 1 to 3%. So everyone's fighting for those clients, but the clients that are being left is in that middle America household who have the 100 to 500 to $1,000 a month to contribute to a plan. And so that's where we want to shine and focus our attention to, as well as love on our high net worth clients. And we love those clients as well. They're very special to us as well. So that's kind of how we've gone on the product side, is honing in on the middle America and the high net worth market. And then the second thing is our underwriting. We're going to hit on that, right? Our easy underwriting. I remember when I started at the company in 2014, the year later in 2015, we introduced our first accelerated underwriting with no fluids. And that was the limit of age 50 and $250,000. Phil, I know you were in the industry, and I don't know you remember some of those first generation products when you're like, wow, you can get approved without a blood or urine exam.
It was MetLife, and they did not do as well as yours. It was yes, it was mind blowing to say the least. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, there's no way. And they're like, well, did you know that we could tell if you smoke or not? Because those grocery stores, they have those tags. So every time you tag, there's a way to get that data. So there's always different ways that people can find data. It's crazy.
And that's exactly, thank you for helping me transition. I love when people help me do that. That is exactly what happened. Around that time, there's some regulations that happened that allowed people, companies, vendors to put out medical information a lot easier, and it allowed us in different industries to have access to that information, to that medical information in seconds, in minutes, right? And maybe even a couple of days, depending if we have to go to a court at a specific county, right? In criminal history. So it's been I think I'd love seeing, life insurance is a very old industry. We've been around for 175 years. The fact that we've, as an industry, have caught on to that technology and improved our underwriting experience for the consumer, I think it's a huge win. And after 250, we went to $1 million. And now we're at 2 million on term and 3 million on our IUL. So up to $3 million with no blood or urine exams is potentially, right? And so I think that whole combination of the great product, improved underwriting, great service has helped us get to this top spot. And so we love to partnering with people who could continue to help us grow. We were number 8 in life insurance sales as a company last year, right? And so think about all the life insurance companies in the country, 700 of them. We were number 8 that sell individual policies, not group, right? Not like Aflac. We're not comparing ourselves to an Aflac that does the group plans, but individual life insurance policies, we were number 8. And when I started, I think we were barely cracking the top 50. And so one thing that I wanted to bring up, let me get up to the next one, is our foreign national program. And foreign nationals, we look at it 2 different ways. Actually, you know what? Since we're talking about underwriting, let's just finish that one out. Sorry for jumping back and forth, guys. But I will send this to everybody at the end. But this is just a quick summary of our products. These are our 2 IULs. Actually, this is an old flyer, so let's just say Summit Life term, right? And our whole life product. You can get approved, no blood or urine, up to and this is a very old one. This should say 3 million right there. Yeah. I don't know what, I can't believe I have this old one. Sorry, guys. These 2 numbers should say 3 million. But the rest of it is accurate. And so this is again, this is something we're proud of, and you don't have to write any of this down. We will send this to you. And especially if you guys are in the market for the big cases, we have a whole separate team that handles that type of business. So any client that's paying over $50,000 of target or higher goes to our large case team. So that's specific people that handle those large cases. And we know those high net worth cases take a lot of time, a lot of planning on the front end before we even see the application. So we want to handle those with as much care as possible, while the smaller and not so much smaller, but some of the smaller cases, usually they tend to be younger people. And so they fly through underwriting very, very fast. So that's a whole separate team that handles those. So that's a big thing. We got about 100 underwriters now, Phil. I just got that number Monday morning. We're getting really, really close to 100 underwriters, which is impressive considering we're a company of 1,400 employees. So we're very proud of that. Foreign nationals is something that has been coming up quite a bit, actually, since over the last 2 years. I think we look at foreign nationals two different ways. One is for people who live outside the United States, another country. It could be in Europe, Asia, Latin America, Africa, the Caribbeans, and they have assets here in the United States, right? And depending on where you are in this country, that tends to be, we see a lot of that business for people that have assets in California, Phoenix to Texas, Florida, and up the East Coast, and in Chicago is a big one too. So it has its pockets and niches. So if you're in that area, you have an opportunity to build and collaborate with partners who handle transactions, whether they're advisors already, real estate brokers, loan officers, accountants that come across these foreign national people. They tend to be high net worth because they have the money to live very comfortably in their hometown, but also in their home country, but also bring assets to this country. And we have a phenomenal program with that. And I'm not going to bore you guys with all the details because they're in this guide. But here's one that I am going to, this is the other side of foreign nationals that we have I would say a competitive advantage in when it comes to National Life Group. And that is people who may be residents or citizens of another country, but they live here in the United States full time. All right, so I'll repeat that again. People who live here in the United States full time, they've been here for at least a year, but they may not be a resident or a citizen of the United States, but for all extended purposes, their flag is planted in the United States. This is home for them. And they have a family here, right? A lot of these people own houses here. They pay taxes here. A lot of these folks have a business here, right? And so those individuals, like I said, that are not citizens or residents of this country, that have been here at least 8 months or longer, consistently in this country, and have either a social or an ITIN number, we can offer them coverage and go up to limits that qualify them based on their financial income. All right, so I'll repeat that again. Go ahead, Phil.
So that's huge. Is that in the term market too? Because there's some people who boast about it with IULs, but can you do that with term as well?
Great question. So for the people who don't live in the United States and live most of the year in another country, we can only do IUL. However, people who live here permanently, right, and their lives are handled here, like I was just explaining, as long as they have a social and an ITIN number, we can do term, we can do whole life, we can do IUL, we can do 100,000, we can do 1 million, we can do 2 million, we can do 5 million, we can do 10 million. As long as they qualify for it financially, we will approve, and all living benefits. So awesome. We're not taking those away either. So that is, it is a big market for us. And again, geographically, we see a lot of applicants in California, right? And all through Phoenix, so I'm sorry, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, through California, through Florida, and up the coast on the East Coast. So this is a market that we see all over the country, and it's very, very well. And that's a great question that that we just got in the chat box. Notice how I didn't even mention a visa. Unfortunately, if they only have a visa, that is not something that we're able to approve. If they have the visa and they have a social or an ITIN number, that is all we're looking at. We're looking at either a social or an ITIN, which stands for tax ID number, right? Regardless of the visa, those are the two things that we're looking at. Plus, being in this country for 8 full months. Okay, so those are, I would say, the three things. I guess technically two things: social or I-10, and be in this country permanently for 8 straight months. Right, and you have to also show, if you submit somebody who is here 8 months in a day, right, you're going to have to show us that they have a full-time connection to the country, right? So if they have U.S. citizen or resident children, if they own a home here, if they own a business here, right? All of their income is coming from the U.S. If you tell us that, then that makes sense. They have to protect what they have here in the United States, so they're absolutely a candidate for life insurance. So great question that you mentioned. I forgot about the visas. They tend to overlook them. And so since we're talking about underwriting, I will say that we are also eligible to approve these folks who have an I-10 or social security number, approve them without a blood or urine exam. So they can go through the same underwriting process and get approved the same way. The only thing I will share with you, and from my experience doing this now for a number of years, if they haven't been to the doctor here in this country, then we don't have any reports, right? We're not going to get any reports. So then we would have to request at that point blood and urine exams. Or maybe they haven't been in a very long time, right? Then that's when we will request blood and urine exams. So keep in mind that if someone goes to the doctor consistently, even if they have a social or an I-10 number, we can still approve them. But if they haven't, there's no medical footprint. That's the technical terms. There's no medical footprint here in the U.S. Then we will have to ask for that blood and urine exam. All right, so I'll stop sharing this, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them. I am going to go into our website because I do want to show our crediting strategies. I know it's a big topic with a lot of people, and so I'm going to bring that up. In the meantime, if you have any questions, send them over the chat box. I'm curious, where are you guys coming in from?
I would say the people on this call, we've got representation from Dallas, Houston,
Love it.
Chicago. We've got Pittsburgh, H-Town, Houston.
A
Yeah.
lot of
So,
Houston.
and
Awesome.
we've got some Tennessee as well. So
Besides you?
besides me, we got someone from Georgia. I forgot Georgia. I could never forget you, Tennessee. And then we got a New Jerseyite as well. So we got a smattering all across the country.
There we go.
And
Love it. So
I will tell you real quick
yeah.
too, while you have it, I submitted a case for a juvie $1 million policy Wednesday night, got approved this morning. So
Really?
or yeah, Tuesday night, excuse me. And it got approved this morning. No medicals, no issues, no nothing. $1 million. So pretty stoked about that because
That's awesome.
yeah, my alma mater had a bit of a tissy with $1 million face amounts with juvies, and you guys had no questions, no issues, no qualms. Good to go. They're putting in like $22,000.
Wow. So I'm assuming the parents had up to that amount too, right? Up
Yep,
to $1
they had
million.
over 2 million. They had over $2 million. They had about 5 million apiece. So yeah, I was. But
That makes
yeah,
a lot of sense.
yep. So
Unfortunately, Phil, there's some companies are just stuck in the past, and they'll catch up.
maybe. So
No, thank you for sharing that. So submitted Tuesday night, approved Thursday. Now you look like a rock star to the parents who have a lot of coverage, and if you need that much coverage, then that means you're making a lot of money. So good for you, man. Awesome. So I'm gonna get into the quote right here and show you our IUL product that we sell the most of. It's the Flex Life. And there's we can spend all day on the quote, but under interest rates, right, here's where all the strategies are showed. So our basic strategy at 3%. And we see a lot of different options here. I'm gonna highlight them. And these are the crediting rates that we're giving right now. We're able to illustrate on our products. So the question that comes up a lot is, which is the best strategy? Which one have you used? Which one is the system using? So the system allocates 100% by default to the US Pay Center. It's an index that we've had for 2-3 years, and when you back test it with how the index performs and how it reacts to the economy over the last 20 to 30 years, it has projected to be the best. Second best is, when the projection wise, is Credit Suisse, and S&P 500 is on number 3, Cap Focus. So that's just a projection, right? And so this is where NAIC requires us to go off of those rules. I'll tell you, I have my personal policy. I've had it for 7 years. I didn't have these two strategies. I've had the S&P. That's all I have, actually. And I've done just fine. I actually just checked my app for my policy, and I've averaged 7%. I've had some zeros. I've had some years when it's 11, 12%, right? So, but I've averaged 7 over the 7 years. And over the last 3 years, this one has done better, Credit Suisse. But this one so far this year has done the best. So what do I say? To me, the best illustration is one that you blend. If I was an agent right now and I'm doing this policy for myself or a colleague or a family member or an actual client, I would be using all 3. However you want to spice it up, you just have to get to we know you do, Phil. It's as long as you get to 100%. To me, these are the best 3, because like I said, historically, if you stretch this out 10, 20 years, this policy, one of those 3 or multiple of those 3 are going to do really, really good. And you may have one where it doesn't every other year. So that's just my opinion, right? If you have your own opinion, I know I work with agents who say, no, I only do 100 S&P. Great, continue doing that. I have some say that I do 50 Credit Suisse and 50% in US Pay Center. Okay, great, do that. Just however you want to look at it. But to me, this is a strategy that I would put my clients in. But again, you are the CEO of your own practice, and you look at it how you want to look at it. One thing I do want to share too, on the far right side, current interest bonus. These strategies do credit a different bonus amount, and this is a bonus that gets added to the client's cash value at the beginning of the 6th year, right? So at the 6 years when it starts, and the first credit will be at the end of the 6th year. So I do want to share that there is a little bit of an interest given, right? So even in the years you have a 0% return, you at least get a little bit something because of the interest bonus given inside the policy. I see some Q&A, Phil. Do you want to take those?
Yeah, I was going to say the first one would be, can someone who is a citizen of India live in India? Can they buy U.S. insurance? I know the answer, but I'll let you take a stab at that one.
Yeah. So can someone who is a citizen of India living in India buy insurance policy, not you all here in the U.S.? The answer is yes. However, you have to meet some rules. So going back to a foreign national, here are the things that we need. Right here, we need to have a financial connection, right? A financial connection to the United States, right? So they either have to own real property in the United States, own a business, or be a 10%, 20%, some percentage of a shareholder in a business in the United States, be married to a U.S. citizen who lives in the United States. If they're a student, here's a fun one too, Phil. The student, even if they're usually we see these in the colleges, universities, prestigious universities in this country, the students that were here on the F visa, they can apply for insurance coverage here as well. And if someone says, hey, I don't have any of these, I just have a bank account or a brokerage account in the US, as long as it's a minimum of 100,000 for 3 months, of assets here in the United States, right? So whether it's a checking account, brokerage account, investment account, anything like that, you have to meet one of these, right? If they don't meet any of these, then unfortunately we can't offer them coverage in your scenario where the person lives outside of the United States. And another thing to keep in mind, let me just check India as because we have different categories for countries.
I believe that India is a C.
I was thinking the same thing. So it's not listed in this category. Okay, so we could probably still offer. I don't think there's any big political turmoil there. For some reason, it's not listed, and not all the countries are going to be listed there, right? So this is one where I would have to talk to an underwriter about, and it's not, if as long as not India's not on the level 4 on the Department of Travel warning list, then we're good shape. You know, usually when you see countries on level 4 are, you know, the Middle Eastern countries when there's political unrest, wars going on, you know, right? Ukraine, Iran, those would be Israel, those would be considered Russia, those would be considered level 4, where the Department of Travel, the US says, hey, don't even visit these countries because of the high risk in those countries. We can't accept them. I doubt at this time of the recording that we're having that India's one of these. It's probably just a case by case basis.
So, Marco, to piggyback off of that, then, if someone has assets here or a kid here, they want to buy an IUL here, what is the criteria? Do they have to get lab work done in the United States if they have to, or do they need to sign the policy here? How does that
Yeah,
work?
absolutely. And everything I'm going over will be in this guide. But because National Life is only registered in the United States, everything pretty much has to be done in the United States, right? So any illustration that you show has to be done in the United States. You can have the conversation with someone in a different country about life insurance, even over the phone. And you can tell them, hey, you know, you have assets here and you have assets in the United States. You should look at a policy here, right? Because what happens if something were to happen to you? Do you know why do foreign nationals buy life insurance in the United States? One of the biggest reasons is if something happens to them, right? Something happens to them, they pass away, they have to pay 40% of taxes on anything above $40,000. So they do not have the perks that a U.S. citizen or resident has when it comes to transitioning assets to the next generation or even their spouse. And so having the protection to have to pay out in case of death is one of the biggest reasons why people buy policies here in the United States. And so back to your question, Phil, the application has to be done here in the United States. Exam, so blood and urine exam has to be done in the United States. We absolutely will take doctor records, hospital records from their home country. And as long as you help us translate it, you know, working with a certified translator, usually there's companies that do that, we will take those records. Policy delivery has to happen in the United States, but we can use power of attorney, right? So if they have a power of attorney here in the United States, we can use that. And I said application, exam, and illustration has to be shown here. So everything for the most part has to be shown here. You can get their interest. You can talk to them about it when they're, you know, through text, WhatsApp, or through phone calls, and they're in a different country and you're here in the United States, but any of the transactional business has to be done in the United States. So good question.
Okay, so I'll give you the easy one first. Juvies, how high can we go for juvies, and what kind of justification do you need?
How high can we go for juvies? So I'll give you the answer of saying that the technical answer is we can go up to as high as what the parents have. Okay. And I'm actually going to use your example, Phil. Anything up to $1 million, as long as the parents have $1 million, either of the parents, by the way, either the mom or dad, if they have at least up to $1 million, you won't see any concerns. You won't see any issues from underwriting. Once you go above $1 million, that is where, even if the parents have that much, that is where we tend to require a lot more details financially from the parents. All right. So I think the easy answer is $1 million. It's up to what the parents have. Let me backtrack. Easy answer is up to what the parents have. If you go above $1 million, you're going to have to show a lot of financial planning. So I'll give you a great example. I'm actually in the process right now of going through in my region, approving a juvenile. So they're below the age of 18. Can't remember exactly their age. We're approving them for $3 million of insurance with an increasing death benefit. But to get to this approval, right, the grandparents are gifting the money to the grandchildren. So they have set up a trust, state attorney. So we got those documents. We got the trust documents. We have proof of gifting, right? So they worked with their attorney. We also looked at what the parents have in coverage, right? Because the grandparents are gifting to the parents, and then the grandparents are gifting to the grandchildren. So we got all of that. It was paperwork to paperwork to paperwork, but we got all of that, and so that made us comfortable going up to $3 million for this juvenile. So we can't go higher. It just takes a little bit more work.
Right. And then the last one would be coming back to our allocations here. Is there a guideline or location where we can see, like, for example, say credit or pace setter?
Yes, and actually glad you bring that up. And I will send this too. So
Please.
don't look at my bookmarks because I don't know what's going to pop up. Let's see. We looked at Credit Suisse, and then we are looking at US Pace Setter. So bookmarks. Where is it? Here we go. So these indexes, and you should ask these for all the companies you represent and you actually work with. These volatility index options, they're not managed by National Life Group, right? They have to be managed by an investment bank. So Credit Suisse is the one we use for this one, and then US Paysetter is governed by Societe Generale, which is a European bank. But I'll show you, since we're talking about this, and I'll bounce around. Let's see, we are in the United States, and we're just a retail investor. So US. All right, so you got to be careful with the audio. So
I was like, what just happened?
yeah, I was like, Phil, you got the perfect mic drop for me. We're having such good we're having such good fun that the fireworks started going off. And so I'll show you really quick this US Paysetter. If you scroll down, eventually you get to the good stuff. And this was the video that surprised us. And so this one's actually one of my favorite because this is the back testing they did, and this line is the inception date, and it compares it to the S&P 500. So it actually has been lower, right? Since inception, it's been lower than the S&P 500, and you can even look at it month by month. However, a year now, look at this, we're at 1.6%. And when you look at the actual, here, I'm going to show you the actual crediting. If we had a client right now that, so these have a 215 and a 235% participation, right? So if our client right now, if they had the anniversary today, and this is what a year a year over year return is 1.63 times, where'd it go? Times 2.35. My clients can get credited 3.83%. Right? So you don't need a lot of return with these two index options because they're basically working overtime, right? At a 200% participation. How much of the index return is your client going to participate in? And it's 235% based off of this US pay setter. Now let's look at the Credit Suisse.
Because you're pulling that up too, what everyone needs to remember. So obviously we're here to be the best insurance agents or, financial planners that we can be. Just because it shows 1.63%, that is the actual pace setter. That is not the actual returns that your client could potentially get. So if I bought a policy a year ago today and Marco bought one a year ago yesterday, we could have completely different returns based on how the market fluctuates. And on top of that, this does not account for the zero floor protection. So that's the other big thing to remember is that this is just the raw market. We have to remember that there is a zero floor protection built into these products as well.
You're spot on, Phil. You are spot on. So, let's look at the Credit Suisse one. Last year, it did really well, 4.4. And if I apply this 215% participation, what is that? So 4.4 times 2.15, that's 9.46 that our clients got credited on average, right? Some maybe were different, lower, higher, depending on when their anniversary was. But from a January to December, that's incredible. And right now it's doing about the same as the US Pay Center. So great questions, guys. And I will make sure we get these sent to you. As you can see, I bookmarked them because I get this question all the time. And so I need to be able to get to them very easily. And so, that's why I bookmarked them, and I recommend you guys do as well. So awesome, man. Well, the index strategies, like I said, they're there. We have some volatility options. A lot of our clients are picking those, right? So those are very, very popular in today's world. We still have the S&P 500, and that's one of the drivers behind our success as the #1 IUL company in the country. Second thing I want to remind you guys is our easy underwriting, right? We have the ability to go up to $3 million of no medical exam underwriting. And the next thing is the foreign national program. So people that live in another country and they have investments here in the US, and you could talk to them about getting insurance coverage and protecting the assets that they've built here for the next generation. And as well, don't forget about those folks who live here. They're in your communities, guys. They're in your backyard. You guys shop at the same places. You get your oil changed at the same places. You get gas at the same places, who live here permanently, but they may just be here on a US or tax ID number, right? We can also help those people with National Life Group. And so I look forward to seeing you guys May 11th. We have a great program in National Life Group that I can't wait to talk to you about. And it's all about collaboration and making you a better financial professional. Phil, this was fun. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Marco. And just want to say again that, when you talk about what we have here, sheer partnership, Marco is available. He's not hiding. I asked him personally if he could come in and help out. And, that's really what you have here is full transparency, full opportunity to work directly with the regional VPs from the carriers. And it's all about collaboration. It's all about growth. So, Marco, I can't thank you enough for being a great partner and, see where we go here and beyond. So thanks again. I'll give just a couple minutes to see if anyone has any last Q&As. While they do that, once again, I'll flash it up here on the screen. the great collaboration. Sign up, tgcconference.com, and it's just so easy to click register today and come on in for this free event. So, not seeing any additional questions, so I will say once again, thank you, Marco, and look forward to seeing you next time I come to Dallas. And I will still hold you accountable for saying that we can do trainings in the NLG office in Dallas as well. So I'm gonna figure out when we can do that. So and then maybe go see a Dallas Stars
Stars.
game.
You
So,
have an open invite, open door, and with the red carpet too. So let us
ooh,
know.
all right, man. Appreciate you. Thanks everyone for joining today. See you next week, 4 o'clock. I will be in Cabo, but I will make sure someone else is training. So you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon.